Syrian opposition groups reach agreement on forming a united movement to oust President Assad. They elect a moderate Islamist to lead the new coalition. Hello. After days of talks in Qatar, Syrian opposition groups have reached a deal on forming a united front to continue their struggle against President Bashar al-Assad. The new coalition have elected a leader, Al-Makhadhi. He is a moderate Islamist cleric who fled Syria earlier this year. The coalition's expected to establish an interim government and a military council to coordinate the armed struggle in Syria. Well, here with me in the studio is journalist and Syria analyst Saka Al-Makhadhi. And Saka, I mean, what does this really mean for the opposition? Is this a real turning point?
It could be. The fact is that the new leader, Al-Makhadhi, has a big base inside Syria, large grassroots support, and that's important because he has what the SNC leadership in the past did not have. The problem for this new grouping now is going to be potential infighting in the coming months. They've got to avoid where the Syrian National Council fell foul of that infighting and the divisive infighting, which kind of alienated them from the grassroots inside Syria and from the international community outside the country.
So, infighting potentially among the people outside the country. What about control over the rebel movement on the ground inside Syria? How do the two connect? And how does that government in waiting, if you like, have control over the rebel movement?
Well, you know, the rebels inside Syria, the fighters and the activists inside the country are not looking for any kind of leadership from outside. They haven't been waiting for this to happen. It's going to be an external-facing body. This group is going to focus attention in the West. They're going to be facing the West and hopefully getting for Syrians fighting the battle on the ground in Syria, facing the regime's army, getting for them whatever they need in terms of arms, in terms of money, and potentially in terms of international intervention.
Right, we heard a little about it in Jim's report there. I mean, how do you see the West and then the other international bodies involved in this responding to the fact that they now have a united opposition for Syria?
Well, when Hillary Clinton signed off the SNC and kind of wrote them off and said that there was no future for them, it was inevitable that a new kind of body had to be formed, and this has happened. This is now formed. It's a cohesive, coherent body. It gathers the broad spectrum of opposition groupings representing Syrians, and so the West will be able to deal with them. The problem, as I said, is going to be if they start fighting and tearing each other apart. But at the moment, the West now has a single body that it can deal with that represents, or seems to represent, most of the Syrian public.
Thank you very much indeed, Saka Al-Makhadhi. Thanks for joining me here in the studio.